just went and parked.
You really have to stop crumpling the stuff on the microphone.
Is this Chris?
I'm not crumpling. It's potato chips. Janice and I are eating potato chips.
It's
So
highly
Chris Udi's on.
annoying.
All right, let's put you on mute.
What? I'm here in person and I
Can't
find
hear
that
you.
highly annoying.
Just muted. Who is that? Anyway.
Me.
That was Chris Udi.
Oh. Hi, Chris.
So before you get going,
Did you take her off?
No, she's on there.
That's a
You
nice
become-
looking book, by the way.
you become Facebook friends and email partners with all the state party chairs. And the Kansas chair got this book from a friend, gave it to him, and it looks pretty cool. Maybe I should get one. So I went online and bought it for myself. Printed one edition only, printed in 1888, and really interesting read. If you didn't know or was a big scholar like I'm not, you would find out that almost immediately from the founding of the country, slavery was an issue. And it continued to fester until 1861.
I would actually say and beyond.
I was going to say, based on the theme of the Salt Lake County Lincoln Day dinner, it's still going.
Hey, Kendra. Hey.
We had
Let me
$1
get the
phone number.
Underground Railroad.
Does Kendra need the numbers? I can text her. Oh, yeah, I should use.
Hey, good turn. You ready? 669.
You're evil.
This is Helen, Chris. That was me. I'm sorry.
Oh, I see. No, it's okay.
Well, it's okay when it's Helen, but when it's me, it's not.
Ouch.
Yes, that would be correct. Yes.
Oh.
As long as we're clear.
Uh-huh.
Is there any Lincoln Day dinners this weekend?
No.
That's my favorite. I'd ask you and Di out to dinner.
We'll go with you. Heck, if we go to the right place, I'd even pay you. Tell Kathleen I saved money for your gift because they just paid for dinner tonight.
I hear something. Kara's coming. She's
Right?
She's a little hobbled.
yeah, come back a little while. We're gonna be here for a couple hours. Okay, thank you.
I'm here.
Who's here?
Hi,
Kendra.
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 Oh, Kendra.
Oh.
And Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Hello.
But just who else is on? All right, it's 7:05. Let's get rolling so we can filter in some people here. Once we get to the business, we'll see if we have any business. If we get to a quorum requirement, then we'll start counting heads at that point.
Who's at the bowling alley?
I heard Dawn.
That's probably Dawn.
That was Dawn,
At
maybe.
Kids game or something.
Yeah, I'm on. Don's on.
Hi, John.
Totally right. I'm here too.
So, Abe, if you can lead us with prayer, and then we'll do a pledge, and then we'll begin.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful this evening to be gathered as leaders of the State Republican Party and as servants, the people. We ask that we may have guidance and the Spirit to let us help us to treat each other well and to hopefully accomplish what we can to serve our state. Grateful for all that we have, for our freedoms. Ask blessing on our servicemen and women, and say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. If everyone stand all around, give us the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I sent an agenda. It's generic. I don't have any specific things to do. Without objection, we'll adopt the agenda as printed. Is there anything to add?
I'd like to add the SEC agenda to that.
Okay, what would you like to add?
Well, I'd like to just add about a revision, to send out a revision so we don't have to keep that on the floor.
Okay, and where would you like to add that, Bill?
Okay, so, you mean on this agenda?
Yes.
Just.
During your secretary report?
Sure, that'd be great. I'm fine, if that's okay, we can do that then.
Okay. Anything else to add?
Just want to confirm that audit committee is going to be part of the committee reports.
Yeah, every committee is listed.
Okay.
Okay. All right, anything else? Okay, without objection, we'll adopt the agenda as amended. Hearing no objection, we'll continue with officer reports. First report is the chair report. So Monday we received some news this week. I sent out an email Monday morning, late Monday morning. I got this message in return. I'd like to share it with you. I hope he doesn't mind. It was from our attorney, Marcus Mumford. Rob, a quick note to say that I appreciate the spirit of your press release on Monday. It was an honor to work with you. You mentioned Lincoln in his words and to try and stave off the Civil War. I couldn't help but think of the dignity demonstrated by Grant and Lee. Appomattox. Perhaps it's apocryphal, and I'm sure I'll botch it, but I recall the stories of how Grant stopped his soldiers from any celebratory actions with the words along the lines of, and he did get it almost pretty correct, but I'm going to go to a quote from Grant. The war is over. The rebels are our countrymen, and the best sign of rejoicing after the victory will be to abstain from all demonstrations in the field. So any claims by anyone spiking the football does not come from me, my staff, or this office. This is a time for us to reunite and join together, and I appreciate Marcus and his words to that extent. For a second here, if you'll give me a little leeway, I'd like to kind of do a Jay Leno man in the street type of thing. So when we think about, does everybody have the password? Republicanism, what do we think of? Being a Republican.
Conservative.
Okay, conservative, great. What else?
I think of pro-life.
Okay, that's a great one. Pro-life. It's a big issue.
Supporters of the Constitution.
I saw some statistics on pro-life. 16% of the country, 16% of the country think it's okay to have a third-term abortion. Only 16%. Okay, so it's a very small percentage. What'd you say?
Supporters of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Limited government.
Yeah, limited government.
Fiscally responsible. Sorry, Lisa, I spoke over you.
We just said it the same way.
Did you say the same thing?
I just said it's our platform. Our
Platform is encompasses lots of these things. But yeah, platform.
Yeah. You mentioned one of those.
Okay.
Fiscal.
What is something that we enjoy in this country? It's lifted more people out of poverty than any other thing.
Capitalism.
Capitalism is on that too.
That's important because some of the Asian group is pushing to have people become Republicans because they left socialism and they don't want to see it here.
Right.
So I think that's important.
They love capitalism means so they've escaped that. So I fly a trip. I got back this morning. I fly a trip the last 2 days, and the first officer finds out I'm politically active about halfway through the trip. I don't usually mention it to people. And he goes, I got to talk to you Republicans about democratic socialism. And I just looked at him and I go, it doesn't exist. He goes, well, I have a problem with you guys. You always say that. And I go, honestly, it doesn't exist. It's socialism. There's no democratic socialism about it. And he started getting into the Bill Maher thing, and I go, look, you can listen to Bill Maher all you want, but it is socialism. So capitalism's important, all right? So let's talk a little bit about capitalism. The reason I brought it up is, let's look at, so he brought up a couple of things. He brought up fire department, that's socialism, and other things. I go, no, it's not. So anyway, the U.S. Postal Service, okay? They want to call that as democratic socialism, right? U.S. Postal Service, what brought it into the 20th century? Last century. It was competition. It's FedEx. FedEx did it. FedEx caused it to have tracking numbers, overnight delivery, next day delivery. That's what happened. And so government was inefficient. It was forced to up its game to compete in the marketplace. Well, I think as a political party, we need to look at the party as consumers. If we want the caucus system to be strong and vibrant, we've got to look at it as a consumer. What does it provide us and what does it do? And if it doesn't provide us those things, we've got to modernize and do things. And so what I would like to maybe shock in a little bit is, and I threw it out on Facebook today, is and I don't want to sit here and dwell on this tonight, but I think every one of us needs to go home and look at it and say, what can we do? What are some great ideas to allow us to market the caucus system? I've often talked to people about the political realm. The Republican Party is suffering in Utah based on what I want to qualify it as infighting and the visibility of that infighting. The media is fed off of it, and the donations have dried up because of it. And so if we're going to talk about reviving the party, we've got to talk about how we can market the party, how we can show that the things that we do are valuable to every person in Utah. And we can't throw out flippant comments like, it's representative government. People don't care about that. It's not a grassroots movement. It's not going to start a movement from within. Heather, you got a big smile on your face. You got some ideas. What do you think?
Boy.
Well, put you on the spot. But you know, we've just got to, we've got to start talking about things like how can we get more involvement? How can we get more people involved and more people understanding these things? There were some things mentioned on Facebook today. How about educating in schools and having that in the curriculum? There's a lot of things about our country's history that the legislature may legislate that needs to be taught because it's important to us. Is the caucus system one of those? I don't know. Let's let the legislator deal with it. And let's encourage them, if we can, to maybe put that into the curriculum in the schools. There's other things like how do we get more people on the precinct level involved and active? And the things, you know, a lot of you guys come from smaller counties or more active precincts where your attendance seems to be fairly robust. But in Salt Lake County, the majority of precincts,
6 people.
6 people. A lot of precincts were like, hey, there's 2 of us here. You are the chair. I'm the vice chair. Let's call in some delegates. And so they just call their friends. You know, that's not representative government. That's government by extension.
Can you say that from Salt Lake County?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, in certain parts of Salt Lake County.
Right.
In the downtown parts of Salt Lake County.
No,
Absolutely.
I'm saying.
Well, out in town, there are 200 or 300 people in some precincts. I mean, it just
And I
depends.
preface it
Yeah,
by
it just
some
depends.
precincts, we have issues. We have a
Yeah.
problem with getting people out. So each precinct, just for your knowledge, how many voters in each precinct? 300 maybe? Precinct. Around 1,200. Who draws the boundaries of the precincts? It's actually the state, but the county has a little bit of participation in that. So 1,200 voters. What flavor of those voters?
It depends upon your precinct.
Unaffiliated voters.
Yeah.
Unaffiliated, Green Party, Republicans, anybody. Voters, okay? How many voters total in Utah? how many eligible voters are you
It's
talking?
1.6 million or
Yeah.
something. It's over a million.
Just over, yeah.
2.0 million. Okay. How many registered? 1.45. Okay. So 25% of our voters in Utah are not even registered to vote. That's a large portion. It's a large population. So what I would like to see is in the next 2 years, and it's going to take more than 2 years, is the Republican Party needs to go out, and if the caucus system is what the party wants to make a preferable route, we've got to get people to attend. We've got to have a grassroots movement. We've got to get people involved. Sometimes it's food. Sometimes it's interest. But we can't have negative political discourse or infighting because people don't like that. People want, we're in the generation where the younger millennials are a little more sensitive. Let's just leave it at that.
I have wrestled with this problem with the caucus system. And one thing I have thought that might help us out is if we had smaller precincts. And the reason I say that is we have a struggle in Davis County, as you know, finding appropriately large rooms to deal with the people that come.
Yeah.
We struggle because there's not enough rooms or schools where I have big enough room to meet as a precinct. The precinct turnout is just too big.
I agree.
These are the total voters, okay? Now we're talking about Republican, registered Republicans, 650,000 plus active. There's over 720,000 probably. If you look at the website, registered Republicans, there's a whole bunch that are inactive, meaning they haven't voted in the last 3 or 4 elections, okay? So,
I just think that's something maybe we should explore.
Well,
And that's county clerks or whoever that makes those decisions on.
The legislature make it and the county clerks make sure that it stays within it.
Can I
Sure,
put
that's
some
true.
input here? The last time we had a census, it was done by Rivers and Roads. First time I've ever seen it done that way, but we know who was in charge. When it came
Who
to
was in charge? I don't know.
Obama,
Oh, okay.
okay, it's the feds that does the
Okay.
census. So, when they started looking at where people lived, they were looking at roads and rivers. That is not how we're set up. We're set up by counties, by cities, by states. Okay?
if
When
you're talking about precincts and divisions,
I am,
that's controlled by the state legislature. So
I
that's-
understand that. I'm
Obama had
getting
nothing to do
there.
with that.
No, the original is roads and rivers. So, out of my district and out of my county was the only one that went and listened to these and put input in. We had one area in my town with 15 voters. There was going to be a precinct of its own. So I went to my legislators, and at the time, my legislator was in the House in leadership. And I said, don't care what you do, but you gotta keep the cities and towns together. They didn't. So that's when the county clerks, all 27 or 29 of them got together and again went to the legislature and said, you've got to do it by cities and make the precincts a certain size. So that's the way it broke down.
Okay, and it's roughly 1,200 voters. There's a precinct
Yes.
in Davis County that encompasses the Buffalo River on Antelope Island,
Yes.
where no one lives. So I know that, but that's the way it is, and we can address that as it is. But my point is we've got to find out what a grassroots effort we can come up with. So when you look at these kind of numbers, you know, we are registered, half of the registered voters out there, but we lost Salt Lake County because there were 230,000 unaffiliated voters and 200,000 Republicans and 100,000 Democrats that voted. So that tells you with the way we got our butts handed to us in Salt Lake County, the unaffiliated voter went with the Democrat this election cycle. We need to worry about that as well.
Rob,
Yes.
I think the unaffiliated voter also went with the propositions.
There's no doubt on that. So if you want to look at that.
Yeah,
so
I think we should.
84% turnout in Salt Lake County, which is more liberal, and a 67% turnout in Utah County, okay? Which both of those numbers
Yeah.
are well above the midterm numbers, but we didn't have enough Utah County people show up.
With the quote, with the 16% you quoted on abortion, maybe we need a proposition that outlaws abortion in the third term.
So, well.
There's talk about one about the alcohol.
Well, to get the conservative voter out.
Right. So I think, yeah, we need to have, if we're gonna have initiatives, we need to have something conservative, because I think that they're
So
going to.
now you're talking about grassroots involvement. So if you're talking about that, so if we have our precinct chairs collecting signatures, why don't we have the manpower to volunteer to get anything we want on the initiatives on the ballot? We could, if we could get the movement amongst our precinct chairs. The biggest complaint I had from candidates this year, most of them were Salt Lake County, was that the precinct chairs and the ledge chairs never returned our phone calls. So they were out asking for help to knock on doors and get their message out, and they never got help from the system. Okay, we've got to fix that. That's got to be fixed. So those are things I want to think about, and we'll address those as time goes on. Thank you for letting me go into that little rant. Convention committee. Several months ago, I asked Senator Weiler if he'd be the convention committee chair, and he agreed. I haven't discussed that with him since he's been on the legislative cycle because I know he's busy. But he would be my pick for the convention chair. Last year it was Becca, who didn't do much, so I think it's more of a figurehead in that. The credentialing committee, Kara recommended most of this, and it was Gina Worthen who's agreed to be the chair of that committee. Tina Cannon, Chris Booth, Brett Haney. These are all Morgan people, by the way.
Just one.
Michelle Lyman, do you guys know her?
Lamont.
Is it Lamont?
L-E-M.
I put L-Y-M-A-N, but
There's
Michelle.
a Michelle Lyman that's in Morgan County.
Is it?
She's a Michelle officer.
Okay, it might be her, and then Heidi. Heidi Balderi. Okay. Registration, I don't have anybody selected for that, so if you know anybody, give me a call. Elections, and these will all be approved at the State Central Committee meeting. Elections, I've called and talked to B. Rob Anderson, who's the CPA in Salt Lake, who did it 2 years ago, and he's done it many times before that. And with Chris Udi, who's agreed to be his underling and learn the ropes, and then she can chair that committee after that if she volunteers to do that. As a volunteer coordinator, Dana Goff. Rules chair, I asked Peter Greathouse, he's agreed to do that. And he asked Carice Thompson, Jessica Christopher, and Claire Ellis to assist him on those. I've reached out to the RNC. I'm going to continue to discuss with them a parliamentarian with a backup of Carrie Dixon. The program will be Bill Vermeten again. Logistics, Peter, thank you. Peter.
Peter.
Greathouse, and then VIP services will be Kathleen Anderson. There'll be a few more names to come, but that's essentially rounds out the convention committee. They're all pretty experienced and done that.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how we want to present them at the SEC meeting? My thought on that is I just don't want people like saying, I don't want this person, I don't want that. I think that creates a lot of infighting.
Okay.
So what are you thinking of as far as
Well,
how we're going to handle that?
so obviously the chair gets based on the chair, he gets to recommend his committee, and everybody that's under the chair of each committee has been approved by that individual. So I think that's how it should go. I mean, if you never know what's going to happen in an SEC meeting, but you know, a committee's never been disapproved.
But Kira, should we have the opportunity to discuss who's doing these things?
I think it would be healthy if we discuss it.
That's why we're presenting it.
Yeah.
And then
But I guess I didn't understand your comment.
my comment was more, could we discuss now tonight? Are we good? I think it would look better at the SEC meeting if we can come forward saying, we talked about this as the executive committee, and these are the names. Yeah, this is the recommendation from them. I think that will go a lot further, so there's not what happened last time. That's my thought and suggestion.
So are we being recorded?
It's
Absolutely.
live right now.
Okay. I mean, I have serious concerns, but I also have concerns about expressing my concerns with the way our meetings end up on Facebook or YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
So I have definite concerns with some of the names I've heard. I'm just not sure how to go about that without throwing myself under the bus.
Right, and I certainly don't think.
If
we
you have a
should
legitimate
have
concern,
that
I don't think you'd be throwing yourself under the bus. If you have a legitimate concern with any of the individuals, I would be happy to listen to those concerns.
Well, I do. I mean, first of all, Dana Goff was going to lead a volunteer or volunteered to lead some kind of fundraising event that ended up losing a significant amount of money at Topgolf. I mean, I'm not so that calls, just on the face of it, that calls into question a volunteer coordinator. A second thing, I have serious concern about Todd Weiler. I mean, he acted very badly towards the largest contributor to our party, Dave Bateman. I mean, they were in a public fracas over the attempted bribery of Dave Bateman's former girlfriend. So I'm not sure he's a proper chair in an environment where we really want to bring everyone together.
Is that a matter of a litigation or a contention out there?
Well,
because I don't know that, you know, everybody has sides of their issues here.
Yeah.
And I don't know that one side is more right than the
I'm
other
not
side.
taking a position on who was right or wrong. I'm just I really am not. I don't know enough about it to do that. I'm really an outside observer to that from what I saw on Facebook and what I heard, and I'm just saying, are these appropriate choices in the sensitive environment that you brought up?
So you're talking about Dana Goff, and there's no fundraising at all with convention. She's in charge of making sure the volunteers know where to go. They're there. They have the appropriate shirt on, and they do the things that they need to do.
I've
I think
actually
she's fully capable.
done that job. It's a huge job, and if you can't pull off a fundraiser at Topgolf, I don't know that I have the confidence that you could pull off being the volunteer coordinator. The year I did it, I think we had 350 volunteers, and like I say, I understand this is very sensitive to talk about things like this. And I'm putting myself out there, and I don't have much confidence that the information won't be misused. But I'm just saying there are significant problems that I already see with the names that are being put out.
Okay.
And so if we don't want a conflict at SEC,
This is where the body that should be trying to resolve it now. Yeah.
Right, but we're being recorded and it's streaming
Rob?
live and it's sensitive.
Yes.
it is sensitive.
Just a comment, if you look at the overall number, a large number of those are not gonna draw any specific, they're not necessarily controversial, but there are some that would have a tendency to be more controversial than others, at least on certain people, and I don't know if that's something to weigh. You obviously need somebody that you trust that'll be able to do it, that is willing to do it, but if we can avoid, we're trying to avoid fights, and that's just something to weigh.
I'd like Wayne too. I think that some of those names will definitely cause people's hackles to raise. And we're trying to build a unity again, and I think there's too many that have aligned against other members of the party. And so if you're going to do that, you need
beyond forgiving and moving on.
No,
I think things yeah.
I don't think people have moved and forgiven yet. So what I'm saying is I think that you need to make sure those committees have some from both sides.
There's no both sides, we're Republicans.
I understand that, Rob, but there has been
Mutually
two sides.
trusted.
Mutually trusted is what I'm trying to say.
Do you not think that the credentialing committee?
Who was the credential? I didn't get them all written
Gina
down.
Worthen and Tina Cannon, Chris Booth, and Michelle Lyman or
Lyman, Heidi Balderi, Brett Haney.
That was connection.
Who would be the chair?
Gina Worthen. Maybe it would be best in the circumstances to write them down
Should
and have
publish
everybody
it.
kind of just mark off who, I don't know, so that people feel comfortable discussing it without it being
Right.
personal against any
There-
person.
My suggestion would be, to get your chairs, which you got, and the people you want on the committee, and then if there are people that feel like their way of thinking isn't represented, that you have them add one or two more to the committee. Balance, that's all.
There is a category, Senator Weiler fits that. Some people have heartburn with politicians having a real active role in the party, just all of them. They feel they're double represented, so a non-politician would be good, or one who's not active, like Speaker Hughes. If he's not active right now, just throwing it out there.
He may be running for.
He may
something.
be, yeah,
But it's
he's on
not
pause.
What are your thoughts, Jeremy?
Well, I don't know, I don't know that I've heard any definitive things. So you want Weiler and Goff gone, is basically what
Are you looking at me?
No,
I'm
just
bringing,
divide.
I'm bringing up
Concerns.
two concerns that I know are going to, I believe will
you
erupt in
There are
SEC.
there are more people going to be involved than just those people.
I understand that. I mean, but when you look at Todd Weiler with what has happened in the last year, I agree with Janice. What we need is a time of healing. We need to heal before we can come together. I mean, I think the intention, come together, but we need healing. And I think that right there rips a scab off a wound.
What was the Weiler's committee?
Chair. He was the chair.
Chair of the
Convention
entire
chair.
convention.
So that's a
Could
big
he do
deal.
a co-chair? Would you be comfortable with a co-chair that could work with him? That's
What is the
brings a
co-chair?
balance?
Is that- what is the chair going to
Honestly,
do?
we didn't even have a chair last year.
Right, I
So,
understand.
Your
The
chair,
balance.
what is,
Just
define
the
what the chair does.
What does the chair do? He coordinates with all the committees and makes sure that all the coordination between the committees is up to snuff.
Okay.
There's not a lot of people that, and actually I stepped in to take care of that last committee, to make sure that everybody was talking to each other and everything was working out. You go through, it's just like combat. You go through your battle plan. Here's what's gonna happen. These people are gonna do this, these people are gonna do this, and you flow through it, and when it's over with, you go, okay, we need to fix this, this, and this. I mean, that's essentially what a committee chair does.
Okay, who's going to,
And I think.
conduct the meeting?
Who's gonna conduct, who's gonna chair the meeting? Well, names are on the board in there, but I haven't gotten anybody tied down to it yet. But,
So that's not the duty of this chair?
No.
Okay, that's what I'm
This
asking.
is a logistics.
Okay,
position.
logistic,
No,
okay.
I
So
never asked.
chair of the
This
convention.
person is coordinating all the other committee
He's
chairs
the behind the scene guy.
Okay.
so that the,
Can I jump in for a sec, too?
Yes.
This is Kendra. So Todd Weiler he's a state senator. I mean, if we can't trust our legislators to help us out and have that relationship that we said, then what are we doing? I think Todd Weiler is a great choice.
Okay, throw out some names. Who, if we had a who would this group recommend? Helen.
Anne Marie Lampropoulos, a national committee woman.
Okay. Who else?
Maybe she should chair the convention.
I would say Anne Marie Lampropoulos would be an outstanding choice to chair the convention. Anne Marie, if you're on here, please forgive me for saying that, but.
She's last week's excuse.
Okay.
so she's probably not.
Okay. Who else besides that?
So to chair the convention, and not necessarily convention chair.
Exact, to chair the,
Yeah, to run the meeting.
yes.
Are you talking about, so you're not talking about a co-chair with
No.
Todd, you're talking about actually.
I am actually chairing the meeting itself.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean, she would do a great job being a co-chair too. I don't know that I believe in co-chairs.
Right, oh, I understand, I just
But-
threw that out there
It
as,
would be difficult.
Yeah,
I think they're terrible.
You can't have two generals, right?
right.
exactly.
How are you gonna find that, but Kendra thinks he'd be great, I think a lot of people think Todd's great, and if we say, okay, no Todd, how about this person, there's gonna be people saying, no, not that person, I don't trust her like them. That's the difficult balance we're gonna
I
find.
think there are people on both sides of the pendulum.
Yeah,
I think we've chosen one on one side. I would encourage us to choose someone more down here.
How about Dave Hansen or Stan Lockhart? I think of both of those guys.
I like Anne
That's,
Marie.
that's speakers.
I think Anne
Or
Marie is
co-
not
or chair.
anywhere
Well,
in that.
so you guys are volunteering Anne Marie. I know Anne Marie's schedule. She's on a million committees. She's busy. She's a water and paper hanger most times. I don't know. We'd have to ask her first.
I like Greg Hughes. I mean, I can ask him if you like. Or you could ask him.
He certainly had experience with chairing meetings.
He's kind of a charmer.
I think he would get the delegates'
Excited.
support.
He likes,
Yeah,
He likes
and he
talking.
would kind and.
He would move it along, right?
He would move it along.
We're speaking about two different things, though. We're talking about
Right, we're
somebody that's
talking
conducting the
convention
meeting.
committee chair.
We're talking,
We're
chair of the
talking-
meeting.
Okay.
But we're
Still-
talking about.
We're still talking about this other issue
There,
right here. Who else?
Okay.
You also have Thomas Wright. He's extraordinary at conducting a meeting.
They're both very well respected.
Yep.
Yes.
very
And,
well respected.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll ask Dave and Stan about chairing the convention. Todd won't have any problem stepping down. He'll do whatever I ask.
Can I throw out the name of Amy Winder Newton also, although she's an elected right now,
Do you want her to be a volunteer person?
perhaps?
like as the convention chair?
No, volunteer coordinator.
she's done really well.
Okay, I can ask her. Any other recommendations?
I recommend you ask Willie Williams to do the rules committee.
I think Willie's a fabulous
He
choice.
is,
He's
I
very-
don't know anybody
he's
that
very
has
good.
an ill with him. I could be mistaken, but
Oh,
I think he's highly,
Peter
he's
Brink.
been a vice chair of the party, he's
Yeah.
highly respected.
I can ask Peter if you'd like to add to this meeting.
No, I'm not saying Adam, I'm saying have him as the chair. Because I think he's extremely respected.
All right, any other changes?
So who are the rules chairs now?
Rules, Peter Greathouse, Carice Thompson, Jessica Christopher, Claire Ellis. Those all haven't been confirmed, and Willie Billings is on there. I'll talk with all of them about what we discussed tonight. As far as
May I make a
convention committee, I'll
recommendation?
talk to.
I have one
Nancy and
concern about
Stan
Stan Lockhart. He is out promoting, or not promoting, the
He
proper
works
word.
for, he works for,
He's working for a gubernatorial candidate. So that's a big concern for me to have someone like that.
Wow.
it's an organizing convention. Who is he working for? I'm not aware of this.
Someone help me with the name out of Provo.
Jeff
Birmingham?
Birmingham?
Yeah, I don't know. I just know
Birmingham
it's,
is out of Provo.
okay.
That's the one. He's
So-
working with them?
I think then we need to take into consideration several other names tossed out tonight who are potential candidates for governor. You know.
Well, I absolutely think so. I mean, I think it should be a very thoughtful.
Yeah.
It should be a very thoughtful decision.
I need to also make one statement about Peter Greathouse. He's been on my committee. I really value his input on my committee, but he has been missing in actions more times than not. He's maybe attended 4 meetings because he's not been available. I'm concerned that if he's the chair of that committee, he won't be available. He hasn't been available to us. That's a concern I have, and it's not about him personally, it's just a matter of he doesn't make himself available.
We were on the phone for 2 or 3 hours today. He's not available because some of the times he's a farmer. And some of the times he's
I
scheduled,
understand that.
he tells you his schedule and he can't make it. But he's committed to me to make this happen. And I trust that at the end of the day, his haystack is tight, his field is plowed, and the corn is planted on time.
I don't disagree with you that he's a farmer, but you haven't been the one trying to work with him and trying to get him to meetings.
Thank you.
It's me. So, it's a concern.
Do we have Claire Ellis last year as the chair of that committee?
He was.
Why don't we have to have Claire Ellis again? I think Claire Williams.
Well, I'm a person who thinks that we should spread the joy over the pain.
Yeah.
So I think everybody.
But if you have some people that others feel wouldn't be fair, or whatever it is that you people have issues about, right? I don't know that a lot of people have that about Willie or Claire. And that's why I think those two could be better options.
Well,
And
I think
could
just
share for that.
just having them on the committee, wouldn't that ease everyone's mind?
Necessarily.
Yeah, if he was on the committee, too.
Not necessarily.
Obviously, we want to avoid what happened last time on the rules, so.
What about Fred Cox to be on that Rules Committee?
Fred's on the EC.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
Is that a problem if he's on the
Is there any more discussion so we can move on?
Brian Smith for registration.
Brian now works for Banjo, and I don't know that he would be.
For Banjo? I don't know who he is. He's not working for the Senate anymore?
Nope.
No, he's with the private.
He's out in the private world now, so I don't know that he's available.
How about Kristen Chevrier for registration?
Kristen Chevrier is an amazing organizer.
I've heard someone told me she's a very good secretary too. I figured that's in that family.
She's a secretary for CDC, and she's she acted as that, and did an outstanding job.
Thank you. Let me.
And what are the two you're missing still? What are the two you said you didn't have chairs for yet?
Registration.
Elections and registration, is that right?
No, elections.
Who's the elections?
Robbie Anderson.
So why, just so that Chris Golder, are we
Yeah,
underutilizing
for
her?
Grace? Yeah.
What?
Do you know who's the guy before
She's
Grace?
amazing.
She's very busy.
Is she? Okay, because she's
Just
done
kinda thinking, I wonder if
elections so
we could
many
stick that,
times.
you know, like a
She's so good
former
at that, obviously,
chair.
she's very good
You guys know
with
that?
rules as well. I'd be very confident with her in any of these chair positions that she would have time.
Somebody here right now.
Well, Ben Thompson out of Salt Lake County is a real workhorse on elections and credentialing, and
He's really good, yeah.
I mean, he's really capable, and I perceive him as very kind of neutral, in the right part of the pendulum swing.
He's done elections before, he doesn't really.
Oh, he does elections, he's
How
done
about
multiple
Brian
elections.
Thompson?
Could help out,
Former-
because they'd be considered neutral.
Clerk, Utah County.
We don't know better, but you know, at least they'd
Yeah.
be considered neutral. Are there any recent college Republicans that might be, you know, a couple years out, 2-3 years out? If anybody knows one, I don't, but they'd at least be neutral, right?
He's in medical school.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he's out of the state somewhere. Remind me his name?
Bryce?
Bryce,
Bryce
that's right,
Christensen?
Bryce.
Yeah, Grayson could be really good on one of these committees as well, if he's available.
Yeah, he's a workhorse.
I don't want to burden a student, but someone who's been around a little bit longer.
Well, we're graduating right now, we're getting into a season. Right now, I guess finals are still
I was just
coming up.
thinking neutral.
Tell us what finals are.
Yeah, but at least for UVU is the beginning of May, end of April, so that week.
And Grayson is currently.
He will
enrolled.
graduate, yeah.
He's currently enrolled.
All right, thanks for your input. I'll run these by the officers, and we'll present those at the state central committee meeting. Next, see if I have anything else here I'd like to discuss. No, next item on the agenda is vice chair, Karen. You can
Aye.
sit or stand, your choice.
I have no report. We're good. Thank you, guys.
Kira, give us a report on yourself.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like, update us.
we don't all want to watch me cry, guys.
No, please, I mean, if what you can, because I've been so
Um,
concerned about you.
I appreciate that very much.
I'm
It's
very
kind
happy
of
to
you.
see you here in this shape.
Thank you. I'm doing fine. I got out of surgery 2 weeks ago today, and they diagnosed me with Cauda-Equina syndrome. And right now I'm doing okay, and I get around with my walker, and I have ankle weights on because I don't have any feeling in my feet or ankles. And so I just have therapy to try to get that back. There's some other things if you want it. If you're interested in the Cauda-Equina syndrome, it's a lot of
I Googled it.
yeah, a lot of information that might not be professional to share. But,
Okay.
but I'm doing okay. I'm trying to stay positive, and I'm happy to be involved in politics. It keeps my mind off of feeling sorry for myself.
I'm so glad you're here tonight.
Thank you, Helen.
Wiggle your toes.
I can't.
She can. Yes, you can.
I cannot.
Not yet.
I
Okay,
can't.
not yet.
I thought
There's no- there's a
there was a message
disconnect.
that went out that said that you did your.
Yeah.
I thought you'd have it back by now. I asked her that in the
know.
hospital the other day, and she didn't do anything. I
Oh,
go,
that's
we gotta work on that.
That's- I know a bulge disc or two feels like putting the pain, but I have luckily not experienced having what
you have.
Yeah, and I'm out of pain, so that's a blessing. And I was in rehab with some people that were in really bad shape, and so I try to just keep my head down and do my job because I'm really blessed to only be in the condition that I'm in. Thank you very much.
Hey, treasurer, financial update. Abe.
Okay. I was just looking at the bank accounts before. A little bit of a, just a note to you. Wells Fargo will no longer be accommodating political groups, so we are moving the money from Wells Fargo to Zions. We have money there today. By the end of the week, we likely won't have money in Wells Fargo, and as of right now, this very moment, we've got about $14,000-ish in the accounts, and that's all slated to be spent in the next couple of days as well. Any of you that had view-only access to the accounts or audit committee or any other service that you've been performing, your access will be terminated because of the move, so don't think it's because we don't trust you. It's just, we're closing those accounts and moving, so.
And will we get new links for this?
We'll see.
Wells Fargo notified us at the beginning of the year that they no longer do political accounts, so we've been migrating slowly to Zions.
So do we have the Zions accounts, have we had those set up since the beginning of the year, or?
They're being set up.
So, can I just ask one question that has come up on audit? So how many accounts do we have right now?
We have two.
At Wells Fargo?
We have two at Wells Fargo. There's a couple of small ones that, like a Victory account, like they have $20 in that. We just can't close them. We operate out of two accounts.
Okay, but how many accounts do we have open?
4.
4? And they're all at Wells Fargo? Mm-hmm. And when you move into Zions, will it also be 4?
I don't know that we've determined that, but likely, because we have to open the
Okay.
in reserve for those funds.
Okay.
Or programs.
So the third account is a Victory account. What is the fourth account?
There's a Victory account.
It's on this. Here.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, one has 20 and one has 26.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
Hey, Abe, this is Joe Levi.
Yeah, hey.
I don't see 20 and 26.
Hey, I have a concern that I don't know I need to bring up.
Okay.
When I was the vice chair in Davis County, Zions Bank, without any notice, shut down our accounts.
What were you
They got
doing?
a cashier's check and they said, come pick it up. And then they did the same thing again under Tina. So they don't have a very good track record with servicing the Republican Party. Just to be advised, I don't know if we're going to be any different because we're the state party or not, but if I were to vote, I would vote against going to Zions just because of their very, very poor track record.
Thank you.
Okay. I've had a campaign account for Zions for a number of years with various amounts of money, and most of the branches and most of the people have been okay. Occasionally I have run into some problems, but that's where I currently have one. Okay, that doesn't.
My experience with everything I've ever done with Zions has been stellar. So.
Abe, going back to our comment, maybe good news. Weaver County passed a resolution that if the audit committee is happy, and I would include, I'll call her our auditor, elected, Elizabeth and Chris. If they're happy with the information you're giving them, if they feel they have good access, Weaver County would contribute $1,000 towards an audit. I don't know if that'll get us over the hump or not, but if there is $1,000, if they're happy
awesome.
with cooperation. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I'll
It's
address
very
some of that in the
costly,
audit committee report.
And she will report on that. Okay, just quickly.
Hey, I have a question. This is Kendra.
Yeah.
So if Wells Fargo's not allowing political accounts, we have our account there, my county does, is that going to be a problem for us?
Yeah, it might be in the future. I wouldn't say anything until they kick you to the curb.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Just reported what the cash balance is. A little less than what we show on the balance sheet. The financial statements are a month old. We haven't received, we have the current financial statements, but they haven't been reviewed. And corroborated, so I'm going with these until I have. Liabilities, we continue to show liabilities of about $434,000. Some of that will go away now that the lawsuit has reached its conclusion. We'll be able to take those off of our books. We have net loss through January 31st of almost $9,000. Trying to be kind of summary, but if you have questions, I'll be happy to help. We did go, Elizabeth and I went to Mike McCulley's and went through things. She had the ability to see anything she wanted while she was there. I don't know, do you have anything to add to that, Elizabeth? Did you feel like you had as much access as you wanted?
The only thing I didn't see were the QuickBooks, but he does keep QuickBooks, and I was a little surprised that we didn't have cash and we have two debit cards instead.
You mean petty cash?
Yeah. What you've got to understand is the way it's worded in our documents and what we're doing are just not quite the same thing.
It can explain that for you.
I understand exactly what
Petty
is
cash
happening.
is a weakness to me. I can control the debit cards, but I can't keep a drawer full of cash and keep my eye on it all the time. So I think control-wise, we're in a better position.
I
But
would agree
understand-
with you.
I understand what you're saying. But
What
With the
I'm
debit
saying
card, you
is
know
our
where that was
documents and
spent.
what we're doing is not the same practice.
Yeah, with the debit card, you know where that cash is.
And maybe we need to tweak our documents a little bit.
We absolutely do need to treat our documents.
Are you referring to the operations manual?
Yes.
Yeah, because we don't have a petty cash, we've got debit cards.
Yeah.
And I do agree, you've got a better paper trail.
Petty cash is
With
just
it.
begging somebody to steal from.
It's just
Because, well,
It's just $3.
not
Well,
only
it adds
that,
up
but
over
it's
time.
kind of
Look
hard.
at the,
I pay
$3
$3
and then $3 and then $3.
Look at the Davis County recorder there at the sheriff's office, it was thousands of dollars.
I did an audit years ago with Deloitte, and I found $50,000 missing out of the
Petty
petty
cash.
cash box at one of the cities in our city.
business
Over there. So,
But yeah, to your point, yeah, just changing our documents would help.
would help.
Yes.
Correct.
And they're outdated. There are many ways that they're outdated from what really good practices are. And I'm in Abe's area, so I don't want to.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Be clarified on this, not our documents, but our,
Operations manual.
Thank you.
Operations.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Sounds like that aspect,
Sorry.
you need to get with the audit committee and you need to tweak those documents and make them actually factual in the way things work.
I don't have anything else unless there's other questions. It's nice to have a little cash in the account right now. It helps me to sleep at night because usually there isn't very much.
Yeah, because I think you've brought some in since I talked to you. Can
I
you-
did bring in any.
Well,
I did bring
but some
in
of
any.
it has come in.
But yes, Rob and Peter have been diligent and we have some money in our account. So, thanks, Rob.
Thank you. Okay, Secretary?
Okay, so, I have provided the minutes from our last meeting, which was back in November. And so, just point out on there, like, the only business we really did is to forward the motion for Elizabeth and Chris's names to be forwarded to the State Central Committee. That's like the only thing we did that had a vote. The rest was just more, I tried to keep to 2 pages with just a little bit, there was some very good information that was shared. A lot of what Chairman Anderson said today is what we reported last meeting too, and is good to hear that information. So that's there for you, so I'd like to move for that approval on that.
So I'm missing in the attendance.
Okay, maybe we should correct that then.
Does everybody have a copy of that?
Oh, I got it.
Thank you for actually not finding my attendance has been questioned quite a bit.
no, I'm just laughing.
I believe I participated by phone on that one, Lisa.
Says excused.
Yeah. I excused myself, but I was able to call in
Yes, you were.
by phone.
No, you actually, you might have been there, but then you had me read a report. You
Okay.
sent me a text message and had me read a report, so I'm not sure you were actually on the phone. at the
Okay.
time. Thank you for the time.
I think I joined late, but that's okay.
You
Excuse
may
is
have.
fine. It's
You may have. So we can put you on there if that's.
no, it's okay. It's
Okay. So I'll add Heather to be attendance. Attendance is important. Does anyone else have a correction on any of it? Especially the attendance, I think that's important.
There are a couple of items that you might want to bring up as far as just comments.
Good.
What happened with the presidential primary caucus?
Okay, I didn't mention that tonight, but Kurt Bramble's running a bill to the state. So the state constitution mandates a presidential primary statewide. I don't know who instigated this, because I only found out through just a casual conversation to Kurt. He goes, "Hey, what do you want the presidential primary to be?" What are you talking about? So that's when I found out it was mandatory. I talked to Kurt. I spoke with him. Kurt says, "Why don't you run through the RNC, President Trump's campaign, and find out what day they want?" And it came back as Super Tuesday with every majority of other states out there. So if it's a Bramble bill, it will pass. It's not, it hasn't been discussed yet, but I anticipate Super Tuesday being mandated as the presidential primary in Utah. The state will conduct that primary. Some of you remember, Abe, you'll remember presidential preference that we did at caucus night. I inherited $20,000 of the $80,000 it cost us to do that, and it was a significant. I've never been above water breathing this tenure, so I just wanted to add that in there. The $80,000, we don't have the money to pay for it. I don't know how we figured. The way we paid for it then was we got all the candidates that were involved in the presidential, the Republican side to pitch in money to register in our state to actually participate. And that's how we raised the money for that. We fell woefully short of that money that we raised was spent somewhere else, but we couldn't pay for it. So that's why I felt comfortable with the state running that. It's mandatory, it's in the Constitution, and Kurt will pass that. Something that we can discuss later on down the road is there was a discussion, and I told Kurt, I go, that might be a little bit too much to chew, but if we see now that Senate Bill 54 has been not picked up by the Supreme Court, therefore it stands, and it's our election law. And so with the plurality issues, I'll probably discuss in the next several months a interim or a runoff election for them to legislate maybe next year in August or something like that, so that we don't have somebody winning 25% of the vote being the nominee for a party. Rather, we'd like maybe a runoff in August or something like that. So that's an option for them. I have a hands-off approach with the legislature. If they ask my opinion, I give it. But anyway, that's something that may be discussed down the road.
They are trying that ranked choice voting. That's an optional deal, and that might actually work with the calendar better than the.
Is that in the bill?
That's already
Authorized.
That's already authorized for like municipal primaries, and the legislature is trying that to see if they can make that work.
If they like it.
I just want to bring a point up, and just for the record, we don't really even have to discuss it. I don't have the Utah Constitution in front of me, but I believe the Utah Constitution either calls for a caucus or a primary. We don't have to have a presidential primary, it can be a caucus.
I didn't look at that, but I think the way Kurt told me it was mandated in there. I honestly don't know. You may be right.
I don't think that's correct, but like I say, I don't have a constitution yet, but I think that's worth looking at. I want to go on the record with that.
Yeah, call your legislator tonight. Okay, because that'll be discussed in the next week. So, all right, anything else, Lisa?
Yeah, we actually just put forward a motion to approve those.
Yeah, did you have anything else to add, Fred, or was that the only?
No, I just saw that on.
All right.
You wanted to ask a question about the content.
We have a motion to approve those from the secretary. All in favor of approving those, say aye.
Aye.
Negative, say no. Okay, they're approved. Thank you.
So I just have a comment.
Yeah.
I didn't actually get a copy of it. It wasn't emailed out beforehand, and for those of us who can send them first notes, it should be nice to have a copy in advance.
We're on 5 o'clock, I think.
Check in your junk.
Yeah.
Mine was in my.
Was it emailed and I just didn't see it?
Yes, mine was
too.
Yeah, I got it. I got an email. That's why I got the login information.
Okay,
How was that? The UTGOP is, that's why I sent that on my first one. Okay, so do I get to continue?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The only other thing that I wanted to raise was, we prepared the agenda for, and we worked together on that, for the SEC meeting. And we're waiting on constitution and bylaw items because their committee had a lot. And so, so I was to put those on there. There may have been a miscommunication about who was to add on any other resolutions, but we had one resolution on the agenda. So when I went through and attached items, I just attached what was on there that was listed on there previously. And then I went through my emails afterwards and saw that we missed the disabilities accommodation resolution from Cheryl Eager, and then Helen Watts had messaged us to say that hers was missing. In addition to that, I went back and looked, and I found that we did not include the item number 5 on this revised agenda, which was Helen's request to set the 2020 caucus date. And so I emailed out to the officers, but we didn't have any further discussion on that. So I just wanted to bring this up so that we can send this out as a revised agenda. As other times we've done it at the meeting, but I think it's important that they get it as soon as possible.
So you have a motion?
I have a motion to put this in the email through your notice.
Yeah, so I
Secretary
would just
Through
put
the
it
secretary's
as,
notice.
yeah, it's just additional information for the call.
Okay. And that is item 5, and what else?
And so item 5, and then on,
Which resolution? 2 of them? Sherilyn's
yeah,
and
there's
Helen's?
Sherilyn's and Helen's.
Were there any bylaw changes?
You know, all the bylaw stuff was in there.
Was that oath of office included in the original?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That was. The only thing that wasn't was those 2 resolutions. And honestly, what I did is I just went through what Peter had sent on those, and I circled and attached, circled and attached, and they were on there, and so we missed it. So I just like to, so mine is without objection, I guess is really what I was trying to say.
Okay,
We can
motion
send
on the
this out.
floor is to include item 5 on the revision and item B and C on resolutions.
Yeah, 8, B, and C.
8, B, and C in resolutions. This is a recommending body only, so there'll be a recommendation to the State Central Committee. All in favor of recommending these additions be mailed out before the meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Okay, you can email those out, and make sure everybody knows if that's in the
I will. I'll
And
point it
Lisa,
out.
to clarify, I also did not receive any of this information via email. The last email I received was 2/25/19, and it was the notice for this meeting, and then you said further information will follow. And I haven't received anything that's not in my junk.
Did you get something from the party for tonight's meeting? Or did you
I got
follow up?
something from you on February 25th about this meeting, and you said more information would follow, but I haven't
And
received
staff,
anything.
okay, so that's what you're referring to, the executive committee?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, staff actually sent something out yesterday, and it goes, when it comes from the UTGOP postmaster,
Mhm.
it often goes into people's junk mail.
Yeah, it's not in my junk mail.
Okay, so I don't know anything about that, but
Okay.
I forwarded that today because I received some of those calls
Right.
saying they weren't finding them, and I was telling them check junk mail.
Okay, yeah, it's
So
not in
if
my
you got-
junk, so.
Okay, so you didn't get this one. You got my
No,
5 o'clock one, or did not?
I did not get your 5
You did not get 5 o'clock. Then we need to check your email address to make sure it's accurate.
Because I've been getting yours, but I haven't, Rob sent some things out I haven't got.
And that's coming from a different process. Mine's just come through the Gmail, and theirs is coming through like a postmaster at. So,
What were you saying, Fred? I didn't understand.
Some of the emails that have been sent out I haven't received. I've got about,
Are you a Gmail address?
no, it's not, it's, because I've got my own domains, but they're all ex-mission, and I've checked my junk mails and they're not going there. So, not sure
that's what I have.
what's
Can
happening.
you check with Peter to verify your emails on file?
So I just checked it here on that, and it's accurate.
We send them to you.
And
X-Mission
yeah,
doesn't like our
I
Gmail.
lost her, and I know that Peter, you asked for my master, it's really sweet.
I know, but I sent
So
through.
that's interesting, so I'll just check and send you the what, I just want to make sure I have information. But you do have a call for the convention? I mean, sorry, not convention, for
Call for
the
the
SEC?
SEC meeting.
Yes,
I have
okay.
Friday.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Lisa?
No, thank you, that's all, thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is committee reports. Peter, next slide. I believe the
everybody
audit
here.
committee is up next.
Audit, okay. I usually don't have a lot to say, but tonight I kind of do. It's been a very busy quarter for the audit committee. We have been meeting weekly, and we have recently added Elizabeth Carlin and Chris Udi into our meetings, and it's been great. As always, Abe is right there with us to help the audit committee, to assist, to give us good advice. And the first thing I want to tell you about is the bylaw amendment that the audit committee has proposed. I met telephonically with Janice's committee to go over this amendment. I hope it was well received. I haven't.
It was.
But Abe, we did incorporate the language at your suggestion. And what it is in bylaw 1.4b, our bylaws have called for an audit by a qualified CPA firm. And what that has gotten us is a gap audit that is very technical in your end year numbers match your year end numbers, and that's going to cost you $10,000. I have several years I've had the privilege of chairing the audit committee, and I get up with that letter and read it, and everyone's eyes are just kind of like,
Wow.
yeah, and it's not really what the body and the party needs. What we need is called I always mess this up, Abe, agreed upon procedures review. We need an agreed upon procedures review. At least right now, that's what we need. And Abe is the one that brought this to us as an idea. We proposed a bylaw amendment. We send it in, and then with Abe's insight, we send a second one in, and Janice was very accommodating on that amendment. And what it does is simply change the wording from the audit committee will select, that's paraphrasing, but this is exact, a qualified CPA firm. It changes that to the audit committee will select a method to audit. And so we can select this agreed upon procedures review. If the audit committee believes that's appropriate, we can select another method. But right now, with the advice of Abe, we have Nick Lang on the audit committee, who is also CPA. What this does for us is gives us the opportunity to tailor make an audit to look at the areas of concern for the party. And the beautiful thing about this is not only do we get information that we actually need and can actually use and that is meaningful to the body, reflecting the questions that the body has, we can do it for significantly less. And we're looking at a bid to do it for $1,500 versus the $8,000 to $10,000 that we've been paying a year. And this, with a proviso that we've worked on with the bylaws committee, this $1,500, and it could go up to $2,000, but right now we're looking at $1,500. Isn't that your understanding from talking? We're looking at $1,500. Could go up to $2,000, but it will get us current through the 3 audits we have missed because we have not had the funds, the significant funds to audit. So instead of looking at a $20,000 plus price tag, which was budgeted, it's in the budget, we can come in $1,500 to $2,000, get an agreed upon procedures review that will have an even enhanced ability to give us a picture of what's going on in the party. Abe?
Yeah, basically an agreed upon procedures review is we tell the auditors what we want them to look at. And instead of coming back, so she used the term gap, and some people may not understand that, but there are accounting rules that are promulgated by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, right? In cooperation with the SEC and other groups. But basically this says, are the numbers that you're showing, do they meet the standards that this regulatory body has set, which does nothing for us.
And there's no legal requirement
There's
for
no
us to do that.
legal requirement, right. And very few, Rob and I have talked about this before, there are very few CPA firms, if any, in the country that even know what they're doing with political parties anymore. Mike McCully, in the meeting we had with him, that was a concern he expressed.
Exactly.
They couldn't tell us whether we're meeting them or not, really.
Right.
Because they don't know enough to.
And if you want them to compare and see if we're following FEC guidelines,
They don't know
You
the
don't.
FEC.
Right.
Yeah, they would have to go out and hire somebody to contract somebody to look at that aspect of it as well.
In addition to the $10,000 audit so what this gets us is a tool that this body can express, say FEC has been a huge issue, let's focus on that for our audit this year. We can do things like that. So,
And this is all precipitated. Let me go back and paint a picture. 2013, the party took in what, Peter? 1.4 million?
I think it was 2 point something.
$2.1 million came through the party. Since then, it's been no more than 180 until this last year was probably 300 or something. But the bottom line is when it was 2.2 million, a $10,000 audit was no big deal.
yeah.
Now it is.
But Rob, I'd still like to say when I read the results of that audit to the body, they just kind of,
They did. They didn't care.
they don't care.
I was a member, I didn't care.
Yeah, and so this.
Do we have money in the account, or are we helping people get elected? That's all I care about.
So with that, I'm going to make a motion that we recommend, or that I have, and I want the approval of this body to engage the auditor for this agreed upon procedures review for $1,500 to $2,000. I mean, it's a budget item. So I'm going to make that motion for the support of this body.
What exactly is your motion?
That the audit committee enter into a contract to perform an agreed upon procedures review that will bring our audits current for, let's say, up to $2,500.
I would say the audit requirement.
The audit requirement current.
And do you want to do that before this bylaw's passed?
I do.
How long do you think it will take once you get the approval? From
Well,
a group to
I
do
think
that?
a month.
It doesn't take very long because you're very specific in asking.
But you guys have been looking at the books for months now, so you should be able to.
We're going to be able to give, I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of
This
the
is what
reason,
we- yeah.
that's part of the reason that we can do it for such a low cost, is that we're going to be able, between Chris, Elizabeth, the audit committee, and Abe, provide these documents and for the review.
So an example of what an agreed upon procedures review might be, one of the procedures might be, best practices say you have 2 check signers on every check. So he would go in and make a sample. We'd say, we want you to look at X number of checks in your sample and tell us, is that happening? That's an example of something
Yeah.
they might do. Or, an example might be that, you want to make sure that there is adequate support. Spending is justified, right? And so we might look and say, is it appropriate what you spend on? What we're saying is that we have support for transactions. So those are just examples, but it's basically us telling him where our concerns are and this is what we want you to do.
And I think I've touted it enough, but one other benefit that I haven't touched on is this will give us a really good opportunity to look at our operations manual for best practices. We will do that with the auditor.
So bounce things up. This is what we do and say.
Is this what we
is
should
this
be
a fit
doing? Is
gap?
there an updated
So he does a
version of
fit
this?
gap on best practices.
Okay, I've got a
Right.
question for that.
Yes.
When would this start?
This
What you
agreed
wanna
upon
do.
procedures review.
Yes.
We would want to start it immediately. That is, and we would want to inform the body. That's why I'm coming to this body for permission to start this.
Okay.
I have a certain level of confidence that this bylaw will pass. With the proviso, it will make it retroactive. And I would like to be able to stand up to the body next week and say, we are ready to go.
I am okay with the ready to go. I just want to
We
make
can
sure.
wait until the 16th to
Yeah, I would
officially start.
Yeah, to officially start. I think that would cover you
Yes.
with the bylaws and the group and you and everybody involved. I think you need to get it ready to start and pull the trigger.
Yes.
But I believe truly that this will pass. I think people will say, we saved the party $20,000, they'll say, yes, yes, you know, it won't be a problem. But I just don't want you to have a problem, so.
So in light of the pending nature of the bylaw amendment, that is why I'm coming to this group and saying, and we can certainly make the contract contingent upon approval of that bylaw.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Then we're good.
Yeah, okay.
You're good with me.
Lisa, you want to read the motion again?
I struggle in part of that, so I'd have to listen back to the exact language, put it in the minutes. But it was for the audit committee to enter into a contract, all of that will bring our audit requirement current contingent upon approval of approval.
Yeah. Good.
You need a second on that?
There was a $2,500 amount.
Yeah, for up to $2,500.
Up to $2,500.
Yeah.
I thought-
I'll have the exact number tonight.
All right, all in favor of that motion,
Do we
please
need
say
a
aye.
second?
Aye.
Aye.
I second.
Is it coming from the committee?
I'll
Is this a
second.
resolution?
It's coming from a
Aye.
committee.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
Aye.
Thank you. The second,
Okay.
the second item
That passes.
oh, thank you, Rob. The second item that I wanted to discuss tonight, which was going to be a more complicated item, but with the Supreme Court's denial of cert on Monday, clears that up. It is the audit committee's position that the legal debt is now, and I can't find a word that isn't spell checked, forborne or forbeared. What is it?
I don't know.
Is it?
I think.
It's forbeared upon, I don't know. But that debt should no longer show as a liability of the party, either to Troupas or Mumford. And I wanted to make a motion tonight that that would not appear on our financials as a liability of the party.
Can I make one? We need to what we've been told is that that is true.
Yes.
But for FEC reporting, we want to verify with our accountant that that is accurate.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you.
Can I make that motion then contingent upon agreement that that is the correct interpretation of the
Yeah.
contract?
Yes.
Which I'm quite confident is. I've made myself very familiar with that contract. And I just have to say, whether or not you're happy with the way things turned out on Monday, the work of the Constitution Defense Committee has been a huge asset to this party. It has relieved us of more than $400,000 of debt, I believe. That's the number if you add them up, which is an unbelievable accomplishment for this committee. And the members of this committee, chaired by Lane Beck, have really, I was part of that committee. I saw myself as a minor part of that committee, but you know, it has always been my position in front of the SEC that what we needed was resolution. We needed resolution. We needed no loose tight ends, and we actually got that, and we relieved the debt, which is a beautiful thing. And I congratulate the Constitutional Defense Committee on that. And then finally, the third thing is Abe shared with us a list of collectibles, payables,
Payables.
sorry, payables.
Before you go on to
yes.
third, are you presenting number 2 as a motion?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes, thank you. I'm presenting
In
that
that
as a
case,
motion.
we need to have a second.
Yeah.
Well, not
Do
this
we
one,
have,
the
do
committee.
we have the motion?
So,
with-
yeah, I
Would
would
you
go
read
through
that back,
languages.
please?
Not the committee.
Okay, so you start on 1, and then Abe said something came back, so that the legal debt not appear on the financials. What other language did you want in there? But the AC position is that the legal debt is forbeared up, and then he said something, so I stopped. And he
Okay,
said something else.
the legal debt of the party is no longer, the legal debt is no longer a liability of the party as, what language did you like, Dave? As provided for in the contract entered in between Dave Bateman, the UTGOP.
Oh, jeez. That is quick. Can we
As
approve
provided
what
for.
she's saying, and then in the minutes it's gonna be.
And I would say, and as
Get it
advised.
right.
And as advised by.
Okay, the legal debt of the UTGP is no longer a debt of the UTGP as provided by
the contract entered into between the Utah Republican Party, Rob Anderson.
Should be typing it, their party, Rob Anderson.
And Dave Bateman.
This is contingent on agreement by our professional accountant.
Well, I
With
think
the
if we
FEC.
look at the body.
So, my only concern here is, this is a recommending body only.
Yes.
So, I know there's been some reporting issues in the past with my contacting Lane and getting numbers and being able to report that with some documentation. And so I have a meeting tomorrow morning with Mike. Are you available?
What time?
10 o'clock. Yes, sir.
Potentially. I can join by phone if not.
Okay.
Well,
so I'll go over there and talk with Mike, and I'll ask him about that. But I don't know what.
One of the holdups was that we were asking for documentation from both attorneys that resolved the debt from us, and neither of them.
But I do
have given
think,
us
I
any.
think a lot of that legally is tied up in the forbearing issue
I do
and the
too.
pending nature of the case. Now that it is completely resolved, there's absolutely no legal filing that can possibly be made. That debt is forgiven or forborne.
Forborne.
It is
Forbeared.
Forbeared, is
That
that
debt
what-
is
So is there still a motion?
I moved it.
It is still a motion.
Okay, contingent on agreement by,
For board?
For board, that would.
I'm actually okay with leaving the contract information, because if someone challenges the contract, then that's what this is based upon, and then it fails on its own. But I'm quite confident that that's not gonna happen. So I'm gonna say that's my motion.
Ma'am, I have a question on your motion.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned it earlier, I mean, his intent is to be able to show that gone, maybe not all of that, because there could be some other items in there, but he's gonna
No,
check.
yeah.
He's checking, my understanding is they're checking with the accountant, they're making sure they got paperwork. It would be really cool if this was done before our ICC meeting, but I don't know.
That's the nature of this, that it not be shown as a liability
at the SEC.
at the SEC meeting.
If it can be pulled off, I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely, that's my motion, that's my recommendation, my motion.
But and your motion still has that if, so that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question or just a comment, real fast.
Okay, go ahead.
Who's this?
It sounds to me
Who's
like
this?
we're a little premature. We haven't checked with our attorneys and our accountants to see if we can actually do that. I would feel more comfortable if we had that assurance before we went and made this motion.
Who's
Who's talking?
Who's talking?
Sorry, this is Kendra Seeley.
Thank you.
Can I address that as the proposal of this motion? That is why that we have it's based upon the contract. It's not just a motion to take it off, it's based upon the contract. I just think it's a win that this party needs. And the Constitution and Defense Committee worked very hard to get this for the party.
Yeah, I'm not trying to argue that. I think the Constitution Committee did great work there, but I think I'm just a little bit uncomfortable with saying we're going to take this off of our liabilities column without first consulting with.
But that's not what the motion.
And it sounds like Abe talked about that he asked for our attorney to give that and hadn't received it yet. So.
Well, let me just say this. There is nothing that makes me more happy than the reduction of our debt. And Abe and I have already spoken today before this. We mentioned this.
Well, Abe
Let's get
mentioned
that-
it in his report.
Let's get this
yeah.
off our books. I'm going to see Mike tomorrow.
Yes.
You may have missed that part, but I'm going up there to get this off our books.
No, I got it.
So, regardless of the motion, I intend to go up there with that idea of, have we met our financial reporting requirements so we don't get hit with a fine? If yes, take it off. And that will be the short conversation with Mike McCauley tomorrow. So if that suffices, then maybe we don't need a motion, or if that doesn't, if you're not comfortable.
Well, I like the motion in support of that.
Okay.
I like the motion in support of that.
Okay.
And do what we need to do to get that resolved so it can be off the books for the SEC.
Could the motion be, the officers to meet with Mike McCauley to request?
Well, let's just leave it on the basis of the contract. I mean, that lets you consult with an attorney or an accountant
Sure.
or.
Okay, so,
She had a
is there a
couple of
second?
things in there.
Don't need a second.
No second.
Okay, then all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
We have to have a
Aye.
second.
No, not from a committee.
Okay.
All opposed, say no. Okay, that motion passes. Any, third thing?
Third thing, the accounts payable, the audit committee has gotten into those, and in inquiring to Little America about the debt, Drew Chamberlain was the member assigned to do that, and he, in doing that, exposed his phone number to the collector in Houston. And
I wondered why they weren't calling me anymore.
well,
This is good news.
the collector in Houston said that he's unable to get through to the party because that there are no phones for the party. And he's unable to get you or whoever he was contacting. So now he's talking to Drew. And I wanted to just bring this to this body. The amount due is approximately $13,000. That's a $9,000 original debt plus $2,000 of interest plus $2,000 collection fee. Now, so phones are down, can't get a hold of anyone. I'm going to give you the offer from the collector. For $9,300, Little America has agreed to settle the debt if it's paid before March 31st. That is, I'm bringing that to you as an offering from the audit committee.
Is this, yeah, thank you.
Through the collector.
Through the collector.
Through the collector. So, I mean, we can discuss ad nauseum what that means, but that is.
That means that I could take $2,000 off that and call Little America directly.
So, but now you have that.
Thank you.
Now you have that.
Thank you.
And also just to know that he's been trying to get a hold of someone at the party and he's been unable to. What the audit committee, yes.
So can I go back, so what was the debt from Little America for? How long did that take?
Yes, that was my next question. The audit committee is wondering what the debt was for, how much was collected, and basically why that wasn't paid.
I think that goes back 3 years to the legislative breakfast.
It is 3 years ago legislative breakfast.
I'm pretty sure that
So they let us have the one last year even, that we owed them like $12,000?
Yeah, I think we paid that one in advance, if I remember.
Okay, thanks.
And then the final question coming out of the audit committee is the $30,000 Qualtrics contract. We're unclear what that was for. I can't recall if it was one of our EC members or a member of the audit committee that has connected that to the Mia Love campaign. Is that correct? No. What was the
The Mia Love
Qualtrics?
is the communications.
I thought the Qualtrics was something to do with current legislators.
So that is laid squarely at the foot of the former executive director. He was negotiating with Qualtrics to try and help reduce the cost to all of our legislators. So they were charging, I think they charged John Curtis his first year like 40 grand. And we had negotiated that down to 15 grand per congressional member. And it was all going to be pass-through money. We were all going to charge that. I don't know where that got spent, Abe. I'm still livid about that. I told BJ to pay that off so many times. But that was we've received, it's $26,000 is what it is. And they raised it to 40. And arbitrarily, they said we could pay what we raised. We looked at those numbers tonight with Peter. That's a debt that we've got to service. And Qualtrics, everybody I've talked to, in fact, Mike McCauley had a conversation with him about that today, and it took probably 2 months of Mike arguing with Qualtrics over John Curtis's account to settle it, because just who they are. So it's a bad deal. Our legislator, we saved them a bunch of money this last year because they were charging House members $2,000 a year for their accounts, and it was $1,000 through us.
Yeah.
And then they stick us with a $40,000 bill, thinking that we'd signed up more people than we had. Nobody wanted to use it. The only power user I know was Jim DeVacas. Jim is running for Salt Lake Chair next year. We didn't offer it to you. But anyway, so yeah, it was a mess. It's a mess. It's laid at my feet. But
Can I ask a question that has come up in audit? Can we go back to satisfy that debt? Can we go back to the legislators who benefited from it and have them pitch in to get rid of that debt since it was specifically for their use?
We can ask. I mean, we can ask. It depends on what Chris Stewart wants to do. He paid $15 for his portion of it.
Hey.
So there's some negotiation going on. So I need to square that.
Who's speaking?
That's Joe.
This was Don. Hey, maybe we could remind Qualtrics they just got $8 billion from SAP. Maybe they
Yeah, right. I know. Right. And they just brought in Barack Obama and Oprah Winfrey.
Nice event today.
And they just got like a $1.5 million in tax dollars or something. So.
Well, if we had
They probably
paid that,
could
we could have paid for their green room snacks, right?
Right.
So has the Mia Love campaign completely paid off the Arena Communications? Okay, thank you. With that, I will, the one other point the audit committee wanted me to just remind everyone about going into convention is the rule that requires approval of contracts over $10,000. So on the record, I did that. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you. Next, is it C&D committee?
Yep.
Janice, start off with, how are we going to get through all these C&Ds on Saturday?
Okay, good question.
Thank you for putting ours.
Yeah, no problem. What I did this time, Rob, I didn't go with the numbers as they came in. What's that?
Sorry, I was talking about.
What I did was put them in categories. So I'm hoping that we can say, this one says this one says this one says this. Now let's vote on them, type thing. The first ones that, the housekeeping, there's about 3 or 4 of them that will go very quickly. The audit will be one of them. The housekeeping title is another one that will go very quickly. There are so many things here that people are taking the same one. That's why I put them together like I did. I did convention ones first in each category, and then I put them in order of how they come in the documents. Like if it's a section A or section B or section C, that's the order we're going to go through them. If that's why we asked for that order. There are some that the people that brought them forward they got a 5 to 0 unfavorable recommendation, but they still insisted that they go forward. So they're going forward, but I think that Helen's audit thing will go very quickly.
What was the recommendation of the body? Or your
5 to 0 in favor. Yep. So I think that one will go forward. I don't think, honestly, a lot of them have an explanation under them, so people should be coming prepared to deal with them.
The explanation was helpful when I read through these.
Yeah, we left any explanation that anybody had put on them, we left them on, instead of stripping them off. And I just felt that was something that would help getting things. Article 3, that's C-103, will go quickly, I believe, because it's just adding language to the state organizing convention that is already in the nominating convention. So I think it's just exact language from one to the other. Convention rules, we're doing the last piece that we missed on the one that was passed last month, last meeting, where we wanted to have the applicable rules. We don't argue about the rules, they're in stone. That's what they are. And number 3 allowed a suspension of the rules after what we did last time, and I caught it and said, that's gotta go be gone, so that we can just not have the debate on the rules at the convention. I think that would really help if we can get that passed.
We'll get done 2 hours earlier.
Might be, who says? Anyway, C-108, which is the Article 12, is simply adding a title to a section. I don't think there will be much objection to that. The first ones that I think we're going to have some discussion on will be C-102. It's proposed constitutional amendment. I have had a lot of people come to me and say, can we not adjust this so that we eliminate any, what's the word? Voting, proxy voting, that it's just, and it's taking out auxiliaries with their ability to vote on the executive committee. And it's simplifying things, it's adding more representation, grassroots representation. And it talks about the meetings, so there might be some discussion on the meetings portion of it. Then BU 107 is the executive committee again, and this is the one that Lisa brought forward, and she's just taking out the language because it's in conflict with the Constitution. She's taking them out, and I think that's a good call to do. C-101, Article 4 is the State Central Committee. There, again, we're taking away proxy voting. You have to be there to vote. You don't have a vote if you're not there. And I think that's fair. That's me. I just think it's the right thing to do. And I have had, from both pendulum spectrum of the parties, I've had requests to do this. So I think it has a good chance of passing. Proposed Constitutional Amendment 105 is having to do with notice of the meeting. We can't change the number 40, so if the body doesn't like that percent of the membership for quorum, I've recommended to Gina that she split it in two. We vote on define the percent of the voting members, and then take the second vote on after an agenda's been adopted. No changes may be made except for 2/3 of all credentialed members present, and I think that helps eliminate some of the arguments we've had as to whether it takes a majority or 2/3 or whatever. I think that will help us in the future. Then we go over to 106, which is on the State Central Committee. And this one, I honestly, these are from Carice. This one, I think 106 is Carice, is that it?
No, it's Vint.
I'm sorry. That's Vint. I'm sorry, it doesn't have his name on it.
Yes, it does.
Where?
Right in the big article, Representative DeGraw. Right.
I just printed this from what got sent out. Maybe it was at the top, after the issue and so forth.
It's C-106, it's right here on this.
Oh, I'm talking about in the amended itself. And I put those on there and it's not on this one. So we'll have to clarify that one. He is trying to take the vice chair out of each county, being a member of the Central Committee, and limiting the whole Central Committee to 30 county representatives, period. And one of the things that we have gotten from both sides of the spectrum, the one side has been more of a moderate swing versus the more conservative swing. The moderates have yelled and screamed that there has not been enough votes making huge, too small amount of people making something happen within the committee. You don't have enough people. You're letting 8 people decide for the committee, how, that type of thing. This is seriously limiting the number of people that can make a decision. I don't think that's going to pass. I really don't. It had a 5-0 unfavorable. And then Carice Thompson's was forwarded without a recommendation. We have since met on that one. And in Carice's, the State Central Committee, he wants a dated email including the agenda and or postmarked by U.S. mail. And then he's telling at the bottom we can't add anything to the agenda, and I think that's harmful for the committee. There are sometimes things that need to come up that we need to be adding to it. I think if we fix some of these things, that but I don't think that's going to pass. That's my personal opinion. C-107 is from Vint DeGraw, and again, he's limiting the number of people on the State Central Committee. Again, I don't think that's gonna pass. I don't think that, what he's doing is actually, we talked about it, and it's gonna be by the Republican strength formula, how we get the number each county gets. But he's already said there's only be 30. That means some of the counties won't have any representation on the State Central Committee. That's basically what's happened. So I just don't think people are going to like that. So I don't, and we told that was 5-0, not recommended. And then there's one from Bob McEntee. I said it right, thank you, Bob. And this one, it's up in the air which way it's gonna go. We gave it an unfavorable recommendation because the committee felt that the officers shouldn't be limited to 5 minutes each at the beginning. He felt it was giving a bone to the officers to make sure that they always had at least 5 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. So it depends on how you interpret it, whether it's a good thing or not a good thing. And then but anyway, you can read through it and decide how you like that or not. The next one is the State Central Committee. This is from Brady Juggler. And for efficiency and not as a notice requirement, the committee didn't like that language. They didn't think that was a good way of putting it, and he liked it and wanted it kept in. And then except a majority of the members in attendance vote to add an item to the agenda. So what he's saying is, he thinks that we ought to be able to have notice of information that comes to what's noticed can be accepted if it's written, if we vote with the majority of the members in attendance to add written language at the meeting. For example, I've got a resolution I want to add here, and I want a majority of it to vote to say, let's put it on the agenda, and here's a copy of the agenda, and nobody has an opportunity to study it beforehand. So we voted that not favorable. The next one is the one from Amy Winter Newton and Don Guyman, and it has to do with the State Central Committee and having any final amendment vote of the Utah Republican Party Constitution or bylaws by the State Central Committee shall also require a recorded vote in the same manner. So that this committee was split on with a barely squeaking majority. The next one was the B-106, the State Central Committee, and this was proposed by Helen Watts. I have since talked to Helen. She will be sending to me some revised language. It's all new, it's all within scope, and what she would like to do is be able to send that out via the secretary, that the updated language that she would amend from the floor, which would give the body longer to read that amend from the floor portion of it. So I think that will save us some time if she sends that ahead, so people can look at it beforehand and say, yeah, that's reasonable, no, that's not, type of thing. I think that will help to save some problems. And then State Central Committee B-109, and that was also from Carissa. I didn't get the rest of it. I think that's the last one, isn't it, Lisa? Let me look and see if I got them all. Maybe I didn't.
10, 105.
Okay. 109 has to do with members of the committee, and there's not much difference between 109 and 110. They're both having to do with, Carice feels like the committee needs to be involved in fundraising, and he's given specific amounts. One amount says that every committee member shall raise $1,000 a quarter, or they'll lose their voting rights. The other one is every committee member will raise $2,000 a quarter, or they'll lose their voting rights until they're up from arrears.
In favor of everybody
I was
else
gonna say,
raising money.
don't smile, Rob.
Yeah.
Well, you're making me smile.
Now I'm really King Rob.
Yeah, anyway, those are those two. And the last one is an oath of office that comes from Bill Olson. He has tried and tried and tried for the last year and a half, almost 2 years, to try to put something together that is an ethics in nature that we have a standard. We have a standard of what we expect of our Republicans on the State Central Committee. I think personally it's a good idea to have a standard, but it's going to be a long work in progress. And I spoke to him, and the committee spoke to him, and I talked to him several weeks ago, and I said, Bill, we don't have time to go through an ethics committee formation in this committee. We've got too much work to do. So I asked him to submit a oath of office, and what he presented after the committee worked with him and came out with, I think is a pretty decent oath of office that we could consider, that we realize these are the promises we're making as we accept this position on the SCC.
May I make a comment on that?
Yes.
If you look at the oath of office that's in our state constitution, as in Utah's constitution, it talks about defending the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Utah. There's nowhere in there, whether it's the governor, whether it's the AG, whether it's any elected official in the state, that defends the laws of U.S. or whatever. And that I noticed that was in here, and I just.
Gosh, Fred, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
Fred knows every code.
Do you have
by
that in front of
number.
you? Do you have that one? He said.
Anyway, just something to think about, because you might see an amendment if this stays there.
I printed off, but I guess I ran out of paper and didn't
I just have
realize
an
I didn't.
observation. So I've been timing the reports so I can go back and see for the minutes. And it appears that we spent about 19 minutes just, I think, at least 10 minutes just reviewing that. I can't imagine how we're going to accomplish that at our meeting.
So I sent an email to the CB committee and I said, we think about some things. For instance, limiting the discussion at the beginning. Make a motion to 10 minutes per bylaw, or they stand as printed up or down. Something that helps us get through these things. So
We've
looking
done
forward
that
to hearing what
before.
you're going to present.
Now, I really think that there's some of these that will need a little bit of discussion. I think we can limit how long we let that go.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of them are just straightforward. What's to discuss? Like I would say with Helen's, I think it's pretty straightforward. Let's don't discuss it. Let's just.
Some will go through, some are more controversial, some will.
Yeah.
But if there's if there's no limit right now based on our governance, if there's a limit in place for the body, we can limit the discussions. And by and large, I think what really occurs is if people aren't comfortable with it, they vote down, it can return later and be presented later.
In the past, we've had limits.
We have, but they're none imposed by our governance. That is all something that the body chooses to do that day or that time.
Well,
Okay.
we should bring it up.
You know what?
Go ahead.
Can I just give you my 2 cents? I think we really need to talk to people, from all sides of the party, because we spent 2 hours the other night on 4 proposals that all did not receive one favorable recommendation. We are getting so many proposals, and we're already starting to see them for convention, that have zero chance of passage. And so I'm not sure the solution to it, but, I think we need to encourage the members of our committee and delegates to think through and talk to people who don't necessarily agree with them, to get their opinions, because we're getting proposals that are just basically there to waste our time. And they're keeping us from getting to good business, needed proposals, and to do other things involved in the work of the party. And I'll be honest, I'm very frustrated because I just don't think we have some members and sometimes that are taking their responsibility seriously. And I think part of it's just getting some opinions from other people, and taking them.
Yeah.
So end of my rant.
Yeah, I understand.
That's one of the things I'm going to say, Bob.
I understand, Don, and here's my take on it. For instance, I see Arturo Morales' resolution, and I don't want to get into it that much, but I ran it through a couple of attorneys, and I don't know that there's anything in there that can be legally enforceable. So, and Arturo didn't contact me, but I immediately logged on to the Utah Trademark website, created a login, and Googled Utah Republican Party, everything. And the only political party that has a trademark was the Green Party, which expired in 2010. And none of that other stuff is trademarked. And if that's what we want as a trademark, you got to start there and get that trademark and file for it. But you can't, I mean, Republican, the word Republican, you cannot trademark. That one is too broad and it's too common in general. So some of those things, I don't know who was in his wheelhouse there, but you know, I could help out with some of these things and discuss this with individuals if they wanted to contact me on some of these proposals. The only one that did contact me was Amy Newton on hers. That's the only one I heard from. So.
Yes.
And that's all to comment a little bit on the trademark.
So are the executive officers at all included or invited to the Constitution and Bylaws meetings?
The executive officers cannot be a member of our committee.
That doesn't mean they can't listen.
But
No,
listening.
I know.
I'm talking about listening to, contributing.
I understand what you're saying. Rob has never asked if he could be a part of listening on the, you know, I don't think you'd have time.
I take it purist that, you know, if I'm not supposed to participate in the committee, I just hands off when I do things.
We have had to meet literally starting at 10 o'clock at night and finishing at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. Because that's the only time people have had to meet. And I just don't think people are other than the people that are supporting and putting them forward, will want to do that.
Let that be a message to all of you who want to be on the CB committee eventually.
Yeah.
Probably think that again.
But you know, there are a couple of things that we could do as a committee. I think that we need discussion on some of these. I think some of them, it needs to be an explanation from the membership, and then the one way of possible would be for you or me to ask committee members, do you want to discuss this, or have you got enough information to go forward? That's one thing you could say. If there's something I think that really needs to be discussed, I could say that when I introduce some of these. Some of them got a 5-0 unfavorable because of one section of it. The rest of it may have been favorable, but one or two words that just sponsor didn't want to change necessarily. So.
May I suggest, I think the body will self-regulate. They're going to see there's a huge slate, and they're going to, after a while, they're going to get tired of it. And they're going to go, let's postpone that, or let's indefinitely postpone
Okay,
that.
I thought I'd seen you at SEC meetings before.
It could happen.
We
If it's
could
too
do
juicy to
Joe's.
let go of, they won't.
Joe was trying to get
Joe.
organized.
Yeah, Joe, go ahead.
One thing, I'll note,
That's
this
Don.
is Don actually,
Good.
I'll note that the best proposal was actually the only one that was discussed with Rob. So there we go.
I disagree with that, Don, but that's okay.
There's two on there that are.
There were other
I
ones.
discussed it with an officer. I don't want to be left out in the cold here.
I think to Heather's point though,
My
some
name's
of this
only on one of
sometimes
them.
for the committee going forward and the party officers going forward, I think maybe some of this could be worked out, like Arturo, so that we don't find out at the SEC meeting
But
that
I
he's
didn't
talked.
do Arturo.
Oh, right, I'm just saying, so if we could better improve the communication that way, it would speed up the meetings in the future.
Joe was
Well-
trying to get recognized.
Yeah, are we done with that?
I think
Okay.
so.
All right, Joe, go ahead.
So I was just going to comment that having worked with Arturo, the point behind his resolution is not to establish trademark. It is to establish those things that are associated with the Republican brand, so that, I mean, that's the first thing you do before you even talk about trademarking something, is you establish what is rightfully associated with the brand, and then those things that you want to solidify by filing for a trademark, then you know, that's a separate thing. But the first thing you do is establish these are the things that a rational person would associate with the brand. T-Mobile, for example, has the word T-Mobile. That is their trademark. That is their company. That's what you know them by. They also have the T-Mobile color magenta. You can't trademark magenta. It's a color. But when used in association with that company, with that organization, that is their color. The same thing goes for Sprint and yellow, AT&T and blue. It's just the things that tie together that brand. So when someone looks at that organization, they say, ah, yes, I know what that is. Coca-Cola Red. That's what it is. So what he's trying to establish here is starting out and saying, These are these things that a sane and rational person could rightly associate the Republican Party of Utah with. And it just lays everything out, says this is what it is. So it's nothing more than that. We're not talking about trademark for short term. If we wanted to do that, that would be way down the road, but we have to establish brand permits first.
Yeah, you gotta realize the elephant, we don't own that, that's RNC's, we are allowed to use that through our affiliation, et cetera, but I get it.
However, and to clarify that point, we're not saying that we own the elephant. We're saying that someone in the state of Utah, Bernie Sanders, comes to Utah and he wants to run as a Republican in San Juan County, and he wants to throw that sign up with the Republican elephant on it, or any elephant saying he's a Republican. Once we've established our brand assets to say, these are the things that are associated with the Republican Party gets to control who can and should use those assets in their marketing, and Bernie Sanders shouldn't be able to use that. We don't own it, but if he wants to run using the Republican brand in the state of Utah, in San Juan County, he has to go through the vetting process, whether that's signatures, whether that's caucus convention system, whether that's a committee, whatever it may be, but he has to get the buy-off of the Utah Republican Party to be able to do so.
Hey, this is Kendra. I think this is a great discussion to have at SEC. Not here.
Okay.
All right. Just one comment. You might look at changing a couple of N's to O's in that resolution. For example, some of those items may be brand assets, but they may not be recognized trademarks. And if you got rid of the N and changed it to an or something, it might solve that. I know that the typical RNC logo is trademarked and guarded, and they will send you notices. You can contact them, you can get approval to use them, and our chair and our national committee men and national committee women have the right to basically tell the RNC that it's okay or not okay. And so that there is some protection on that, but you're right, there's some other items that perhaps have been abused or could be abused, but you might just look at a couple of words here and there, and it could be as simple as changing an and to an or in some of those cases.
Joe, why don't you get hold of Fred offline?
If you could point that out to me offline, that'd be great.
Yeah, do that offline. Great, sounds good. Okay. Janice, anything else?
Yeah, I thought about something and then it left me, so can I intersperse something in a minute?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Put it to paper and then you won't forget it. Budget committee's next. Abe, you talked about everything you want to talk about? Okay. Constitutional Defense Committee. Do we have a representative? Is that you, Helen?
I don't believe so.
Anything to add?
Don? Are you there?
Yes. I guess we were disappointed in the outcome, but we do appreciate the support that members of the SEC gave to the committee. And I do want to correct something that Helen said earlier about the CDC. Helen was a huge contributor to the CDC, and her insights were invaluable. And I know she spent quite a bit of time, when we were starting to form this with Lane on many calls, and so for her to say that she was not much was incorrect. So I just want to correct the record that Helen was a huge part of the committee and played a very vital role.
Well, I spent hundreds of hours, Dawn, but compared to the thousands that everyone else spent, but thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anything else on that? Okay, Data Software Technology Committee. Is Arturo on? Joe, anything to add?
I don't have anything further to add from the Data Technology Committee.
Okay, thank you. Grassroots.
So something that the Grassroots Fundraising Committee could do is we've talked about, we have a training coming up on April 11th, sponsored by the Utah Republican Party. It'll be here at headquarters. We'll try to I'll get the information out as it gets finalized to everybody. It'll be small. I don't know if many of you heard about the one we wanted to do on March 9th, and then I had my problem. So this will be a much smaller, informal, but hopefully something that we can talk about with delegates. Hey, we're doing this, so show something positive that's going on with the state party. But we wanted to have the grassroots fundraising participate, but now we're making it a very small event. So we're hoping that we can do, with whoever the party leadership is later on this summer, a caucus convention training / fundraising training. Because I know a lot of counties are doing different things. Salt Lake County, Utah County, Cache County, several counties are doing different things to help with fundraising in their communities, and we thought it'd be great to kind of work with them, talk to them, and give ideas to county officers at that time who don't have a fundraising option, and talk to any potential candidates at that time about how to fundraise. But nothing serious, but just things that we've talked about in the future doing and making sure that we can participate in to help in that
So
avenue.
is your March 9th gone?
Yeah, it was postponed to April 11th.
Do you know where or what time?
So it'll be here at party headquarters on April 11th, and it'll start at 7 p.m. And the presenters, we haven't heard back from all of them, but the ones that we've reached out to is all the same except a few are not participating. So right now we hope to hear back from Sasha Clark to do the mock media interviews. Chris Booth will talk about county and state party work with Chairman Anderson. I'm trying to remember the other one. John Dougal, we talked about him talking about communication, how to improve communication within party and just in general. And then the last one, 101, Running for Politics 101. So just those types of things. We'll try to get it put out quickly so people can see what it is. It'll just be a free event here where people can come and learn just some basic, trainings.
Okay, thanks. Because the other day was, I had like 8 things that day.
Yeah. It was a busy day for a lot of people.
Okay. Thank you, Kara. Freedom Association Committee. Is anyone on from that committee?
I think that committee was only formed for a caucus period.
Okay.
I don't think that they're actually in existence anymore.
Okay, great. Caucus Task Force, I haven't reached out to Weldon in a little while. I'm going to start feathering him in. I hope to have a report from him and him in attendance at the March 16th meeting with some ideas. He poured over hundreds and hundreds of surveys and spent hours and hours and hours compiling ideas. I think he can put out he's got a great pulse on what we can do to help ourselves out marketing the caucus system. Okay, that's enough said about the Caucus Task Force. Auxiliary reports slide. Okay, Native American Caucus. Joe.
So we've been reaching out primarily to the Paiute and Navajo tribes in the state of Utah. We found a lot more support in individuals rather than tribal governments, which is a concern that we've come across. Most of the tribal governments are more moderate and even socialist leaning, which is not a surprise given their dependency on federal and state programs. So we're doing more of a grassroots reach out. We've contacted several people who are running from the Kanash Band for their tribal council seats, and we're working with some of those who are currently undeclared as far as partisan affiliation to try and find support for and put weight behind those who are more Republican leaning. Other than that, we continue our membership outreach.
Thank you. Okay, College Republicans. Grayson, are you on?
So I'm actually running for Grayson. Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, sorry, no, my name's Cameron Chester, go to UVU.
Okay,
so,
great.
Grayson just wanted me to mention about Dennis Prager coming up on March 15th. You guys can purchase, whoever can purchase tickets on our Facebook page, there's a link for that. Then the Utah College Republicans Convention on March 16th, 10 to 4 p.m. And Grayson just wanted to mention that he's not running again. So.
Heard that. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, I'll pass that on.
Do you guys know who is? Do you have a nomination?
I have a couple ideas, but
No official nomination.
no official nomination.
You?
No.
Like the Sox, you ought to be.
Okay,
Right.
yeah. Young Republicans. Anyone on from the Young Republicans? No. Republican Latino Coalition. Cindy?
Cindy was on and she messaged me, she had to just get off just a little bit ago. And she said that their executive committee is meeting later this month. I know they've already had another meeting just recently. We are waiting to hear if our help is needed for the UTGOP Latino event next month.
No, I think she's emailed. Were you in that email?
Yeah, she said she
contacted
hasn't
us.
heard back. Okay. So she just wants to make
I
sure.
thought Lisa talked to her about that, so, yeah.
Lisa?
Or,
Someone else.
Kara.
Okay.
Yeah, with the-
Joni, Kara.
Yeah, with the names.
We're gonna reach this. So, yeah, we've got a Latino Coalition thing going on, and the flyers are going out. We're trying to invite some people. We've got, I invited the governor, he's out of town. So it'll be Lieutenant Governor Cox, it will be President Adams and Speaker Wilson are attending. It'll be in Taylorsville. And specifically, I think for a half hour, we're gonna have a meet with local leaders that are Hispanic. There's a gal that lives up in Layton, who's from Puerto Rico, and she's agreed to start translating our email messages out in Spanish, so we can send those out in both languages to help out the Republican outreach into the Latino community. We know they are conservative by nature, and we're reaching out to them.
I'll reach out to Cindy and see if they can want to be there participating in I'll coordinate.
Yeah. We need advertising and all that. Yeah. So, okay, Teenage Republicans. Going once, twice. Rural Utah Republican Alliance.
Chris was on, but she did have to get off
Okay.
about 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
I don't have a report. She
No
just
report?
said,
Okay.
keep doing the good work.
Thank you. Heather.
Yeah, so just clerical, we're actually Utah Republican Women Liberty Caucus because our acronym is URWLC, so we use that quite a bit.
Okay.
Just so people
That was
know.
Peter, so Peter
Okay.
fixed that.
I
So
pulled
what
it
is
from the last meeting, so it's been wrong twice.
Yep, it's okay, but we do use our acronym quite a bit. So
Okay, great.
we have been doing a lot of social media outreach on Facebook, and we reached last 28 days over 9,000 people with our posts, and that's at 5.5K in the last 28 days, and our post engagement is up 1.5K. We mostly have been doing lately education about how to find legislation, how to navigate through the websites of the legislature. We've also been educating about particular bills. As an organization, we're tracking 13 bills during the legislative session. So a lot of interaction with our legislators, and then we poll our group to get consensus on whether or not we approve or disapprove of the legislation. And then we've also been educating about Utah history. Like one of our biggest outreach was about President's Day, that it's not actually called President's Day in the state of Utah, and people were fascinated by that. We meet every month, and last month we did a fundraiser for a veteran that needed shoes, and we were also able to collect 4 bags of winter clothing for homeless veterans in Utah. That's the second donation we've made to homeless veterans over the last couple of months. So as an organization, we've been contributing to homeless vets.
Where do you donate those?
The VA hospital. Yeah, they have a psychology department there that works with the homeless.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yep. So that's mainly what we've been doing. We offered our help with the training, and that sounds like the auxiliaries won't be helping, but we were happy to help with that.
Well, we will invite them to come and be
So
a part of
is this correct now?
Yes, that is. Yep.
Great.
How many people do you have attend your events? Are you getting good attendance?
It depends because we're a statewide organization, so most of what we do is actually virtual.
Okay.
Because we do most of our polling and outreach on Facebook.
Are your monthly meetings virtual?
No, we
Okay.
do. I don't know, it depends. We do some virtual, but most of what we do is up in the Capitol.
Okay.
During either interim or legislative session. We
Okay.
have lunches up there.
Okay.
And last year, I mean, it varies, I would say between 10 to 20, depending on what we're doing.
Yeah.
We do like potlucks or legislative, but a lot of what we do is virtual because we are statewide and we're spread throughout the state. So.
Great, sounds good.
Yep.
What's your biggest feedback in your education? Is it anything on abortion and tax or?
The
What's
biggest feedback,
thing?
you're going to be surprised,
Yeah.
was actually the state school board. That was a very hot topic. It got over 5.6K people reacted to that post over whether the school were to be elected or appointed, and it was shared 675 times. So
It's
it
all
was
organic.
quite controversial.
Interesting, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Was it friendly or was it?
No, it gets a little fiery. We do get some
Did you
fiery
poll your group
feedback.
on that? Where did they come
yeah,
up?
they were in support of an elected school board not appointed. So,
Inside the octagon with Elizabeth
yeah. So we do poll our group before we put any opinion out on Facebook to get a consensus. So.
Thank you for spreading the message. Veterans, Chad.
So we've been talking to current and past members of the Utah the Veteran Advisory Council that the governor's office has created to make sure that we're not overlapping or having overlapping redundancy in what they're doing in terms of advising the Utah Department of Military and Veteran Affairs and how they're assisting the executive branch, and then what our mission statements task us to do in terms of how we're supposed to aid the party, and advise legislators. So we're still formulating those strategies so that we're assisting each other and not working against each other in that regard. And of course, just continuing membership outreach. So
There's something that I think is important is getting those veterans with disabilities, some good paperwork is basically.
Sure.
So that'd be something you.
And GI Bill benefits is there's always education needed on that. I mean, we're always running into vets that have no idea how to. I mean, post GI Bill stuff is changing all the time.
There's a state agency that helps with some of that, like what you're talking about. I kind of forget the name right now, but I know there is one.
And their congressional offices.
Yeah,
Or Senate offices.
Yeah, you know the head guy. He came to me and goes, "Let's get your disability, so you don't pay taxes." And I'm like,
100%. Give me 100%.
No,
I've
no test for tinnitus.
We've had a few. I've had a few casual meetings with some people at the NAC, the National Ability Center up in Park City, because that's where I spend a lot of time. And they have a whole kind of veterans wing that they do there too. So they're slowly building out.
Is that it?
Okay, that's it.
UFRW. Lorraine, are you still on? Were you on? Okay. Carice, Republican Black Assembly. I do not hear Carice on there. Okay. We're done with the auxiliary reports, but.
Thank you. I just texted Amelia Powers because I really thought that the county clerk draws the precinct lines, and she confirmed that they do. So they actually draw the lines, but the legislature does the ledge districts and the House, the House district.
House, Senate, and the
yeah,
congressional.
yeah.
Controls the number.
And the state, or the Senate, and the governor.
I remembered one thing that I wanted to say to everybody, and that is, if we don't deal with these CMBs at our state central committee meetings, I am convinced that many of them, the same ones, would come home for convention. So I just think that's important, that we don't ignore them or push them aside or don't give them time of day, just so you know.
Okay. Peter, how long have you had the facility? Do you remember?
So the contract is till 5 p.m.,
Okay.
but that's a hard out.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they advised us to prepare to get out by 4, because at 5, the facility next door opens for business, so they want us out.
All right, to conclude, I appreciate everybody volunteering their time and effort. What's that? Oh, Rona. Congressional report, yes.
Do you want a little report? It's pretty late.
I'll
Who are you with?
She can't.
I'm with Congressman Stewart.
Okay.
And
How's Chris taking the lumps back there?
you know what? So to be really honest, having Nancy Pelosi at the helm has, I think, really lit a fire under a lot of Republicans. Chris has been extraordinarily vocal on the abortion issue lately, the anti-Semitism issue. There's work to do. His focus is, I wouldn't say changing. He's still on the Intel Committee and Appropriations. They put him on budget as well.
I think his focus is gonna have to shift just a tiny bit. You know, he's been so focused on national security and intelligence, which is really his first love and passion. But probably feels like maybe we can get more work done on the budget and appropriations side while we have, you know, a Democrat at the helm. So, yeah. And he has had overwhelming nationwide support on the anti-socialism front that he wants to, he's going to start that anti-socialism caucus. And I mean, there's some Congress people on the Democratic side that really truly want to destroy capitalism, and it's an issue that he needs to take up. So, so yeah, I'll just say he's on fire right now.
Good. Good.
So.
Good. Okay, great.
And appreciates you. I mean, really, this is the time that you all spend doing things like this. I mean, he really appreciates it. And says that to me.
Okay, so thanks. Pass this thanks back. I'll try and call him this week, see how he's doing. Build him up. But the last thing I'll say is I got an email today, and I deleted it. I was trying to look for it. But there's a campaign 101 school that RNC is hosting. It's in D.C. It's March 23rd to the 30th of this month. The cost is $350 plus lodging, obviously, airfare if you fly back there. But if anybody's interested, you know anybody's interested, let me know, and I will come up with who they need to do to register for that class. It's their first ever, so I don't know anything about it other than it's their first one. So typically things back there are pretty good. They cater very well. I think you don't have to worry about meals during the day, and you will hear, I would imagine you would hear from some pretty high-level cabinet people during that week, and potentially the president or Mike Pence. It's a guess. I don't know. But if they're in town, sometimes the RNC can get them to come over and speak. So,
Sorry, could you clarify whose name is?
RNC in DC is their headquarters. They just remodeled their headquarters. It's apparently really nice. I've never been there, but the yeah. So, okay. All right. Without further ado, without objection, we'll adjourn. Anybody object? Great. Thanks for coming. Thanks for all you do.